Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from PettyRevenge. Story 1 is by Popsicle Freeze. Don't want to reimburse me for the money I sent because you lied? No problem. I'll get it back one way or another. A year and a half ago, I was leaving a very toxic and abusive relationship. I have a job and stable income, but wasn't planning on staying in the state I was staying in. So I didn't want to get a lease and root myself there for a year on the off chance that an opportunity came up. There were several things in the air, so to speak, so I thought it best to rent a room in the meantime with my dog and wait it out. I found a room on Craigslist and went to tour it. It was nice. A little far, but hey, I needed something quick. I paid prorated rent for 1 month and the full rent for the next. A total of $1,400, which was already more than it should have been, but I wasn't in the position to argue that. I also paid a $500 deposit for damages. Then everything started going downhill. I moved in and things were fine for a week. Roommate and I hung out a bit and drank and enjoyed our dogs and each other's company. I would let her try foods I cooked and vice versa. Juices, snacks, dinners, I didn't mind. Until one day my meal prep bowl went missing. I did give her one as I knew I would be tired of it soon, but I made 5. 3 were there, 2 were gone. I asked roommate about it and she claimed she didn't know. First, red flag. Only 2 people in this home and the dogs didn't grow arms and touch it. Then, as I'm helping my friend file her taxes for the first time, a man shows up and serves me a summon for court. He thought I was the roommate. And it was for back payment of rent. She had been behind and about to get evicted. I mentioned this and she exclaimed, "They were supposed to take that back." So she knew. She brought someone into her situation knowing this was going to happen. Then the water went out. She didn't pay the bill. I had to shower at work when I drove an hour to the office. She claimed the city was having issues. They weren't. Her internet was out. She didn't pay that bill either. She said it wasn't her fault. She was trying to get me to offer to pay the bill as I needed it for work. I didn't. I opted to go to the office. She would lock my dog in my room even after she told me it was fine for her to roam, but she didn't really want her to. That's fine, you're home. But she also broke my ceiling fan in the room. My window was broken so I couldn't open it, and she kept the heat on. My dog was baking in 80 degrees in the house upstairs. Not cool. I told her to stop doing that. Either you lower the AC or give her the freedom to cool off downstairs since heat rises. Then she told me one day the maintenance people came to check the fan in my window and my dog scared them. The result? She was fined $300 because she wasn't on the lease. I sent them the money. She already had 3 dogs with 1 not on the lease. Make it make sense. Then I started to catch on. She was going to keep asking and try to get more money. I asked for an amended lease to prove my dog was on there now. She got defensive and said I accused her of lying. I didn't, but if it's resolved, why not send the lease? She claimed she'd asked for one, but couldn't promise anything. Final straw was when she told me not even 20 days into the full month that she couldn't afford to live there anymore and asked if I wanted to get a place together. I said no, I'm not putting my social on a lease with yours. So she said she had to move. She wasn't going to reimburse me my deposit or my $300 for my dog. Solution? I came downstairs to moving boxes. She was just going to jump ship without so much as an apology. I took a day off, quote, sick, quote, from work, while she went to her job and up and moved all my stuff and some of hers to a storage unit, and got an Airbnb for a few days. I texted her I moved out and she had 7 days to send me my money or else. She laughed it off, not knowing. She said she had to evaluate my room for damages, knowing there weren't any. But I figured I'd give it some time, so she knew how serious I was. She got home from work and my phone started blowing up. I reiterated, 7 days and you'll have your stuff. Otherwise, I'm selling it. She didn't pay, so I got my money back in other means, all but $22, which I was okay with. I sold it all. I wasted my entire tax refund and then some to move. She knew she wasn't right, and I was pinching pennies at this point. She threatened me with the cops, but we both knew that was an empty threat. I spent 20 days in a home I paid a full month's rent for. Never again. Been on my own ever since. This is one of those roommates from HE double hockey sticks. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I really would like to be able to say the word HELL on here. I might start doing it at some point, but I've been avoiding saying it since the beginning of my channel, and I'd hate to change that now, because some people are used to a certain level of censorship, I guess. But anyway, this roommate was awful, and I don't really understand why she is the one that's going to have to be reimbursing you for your deposit. You mentioned that above. It's kind of confusing to me. This woman was your roommate, not your landlord, but she is the one that you paid the security deposit to and the rent to, because she's the one that was advertising on Craigslist for that. If ever you think about getting a roommate for a room, it can make your life way easier and it can make it way, way worse. You can get somebody who just doesn't pay rent. You can get somebody who's loud and obnoxious and doesn't mesh well with you. You can get somebody who just doesn't clean up after themselves. That happens too. Get somebody who parties all the time. If you ever want to know what kind of roommates there are out there and what kind of disputes that people end up taking to court, watch some of the old Judge Judy episodes, because she encounters cases constantly where people are suing their roommate or former roommate for dog damage to the apartment, they had a party and they broke this and that. It's not worth it in the long run, and it feels so nice to have your own place. But yeah, it sucks because these people, when they have a roommate, are already pinching pennies, like this person said. Their money is so tight, and when I lived on my own, it was paycheck to paycheck all the time, pinching pennies. That in itself is a form of stress that you don't want to deal with, but neither is having a roommate that you just cannot tolerate. That's even worse, I would say. Our next story is by Casa Saga Thief. Customer came in demanding I break the rules for her. I'm an overnight cashier at a gas station. Pretty chill most nights. There's a few bad apples, as always, but nothing too bad. Every now and then, I'll get an entitled customer that demands I sell them beer without an ID. Against state law, wouldn't dream of it. Or sell them cigarettes despite being 20. Sorry kids, not happening. One lady, though, she really got under my skin. Happened a while back. She comes in around 11:30, so well past the time we shut down lottery. We turn off the machine at 10 as per our store regulations. There's a ton of updates the machine undergoes nightly, and it takes 6 to 7 hours. I keep an eye on her and notice she has one of the ball draw style lotto cards in her hand. I call out and explain that our machine is off for the night, so I cannot sell her the tickets. She scoffs loudly and says I'm lying and I don't want to do my job. I reiterate that the machine is already undergoing maintenance, so she will have to return at 5 a.m. when the machine is ready for service. She throws the ticket on the ground and stomps to the beer. I'm already annoyed, and in my head I know I'll make sure my coworker takes care of her next time. I don't want to deal with this drama. She comes back to the counter, beer cans in tow, and slams them onto the counter. I grab one to scan and ask her for her ID. Lady, once again, scoffs and asks if it's really necessary. She has wrinkles older than me. I explain that it's store policy and state law to see ID for alcohol purchases. We go back and forth for 5 minutes. It only ends when I tell her she can either give me the ID so I can do my job, or she can leave beerless and lottoless. She passes me her ID, face bright red. And the lady just starts going off at this point, saying I need to lose my job. My manager, whom she called by name, would be so upset to hear how I'm treating a regular. I write my name, my manager's free time for the next day, and tell her she is free to come in and complain about me doing my job. It'll go absolutely great for her. She snatches the paper and starts asking me to sell her cigarettes. I tell her I'm not selling her anything else, as she has repeatedly made me uncomfortable and I have the right to refuse service to anyone for any reason. She leaves screaming that she's going to come back and kick my behind. I leave a long text to my managers in the group chat explaining what happened along with a description of her. Couple hours later, some of my regulars come in for their nightly coffees. 2 of the local sheriffs. I give them the rundown of what transpired, and one of them promises to swing through a few times for a few nights to make sure she's not causing trouble. Here's where I get petty. She had parked at the front of the store. I had perfect view of her license plates, so I took note and waited. Lady shows up 2 nights later and parks by the dumpster. She's standing on the sidewalk for 2 hours waiting for me to come outside. About an hour in, I call the tow service our store uses. I say there's a broken down car in our parking lot in prime parking position as per rules. Cops come through, as they always do for coffee, and they ask me if she's the customer harassing me. I confirm it. They go out and talk to her. At this point, the tow truck pulls in. Lady starts walking away from cops to talk to the driver, confused and pissed. I didn't get to hear much of the encounter, but I watched as she got arrested, put in the back of the patrol car, and they waited for the tow truck to finish hauling her car off before leaving. No idea what happened to her. She hasn't come back in, and I didn't get in trouble with management. I'm assuming this is in a state where the smoking law is 21, not 20. That must be a thing. Okay, so I just did a tiny bit of Googling and was not aware that they'd raised the age to sell tobacco products to 21 in all U.S. states. When I used to work at a convenience store like 8 years ago, it was still 18. You could get cigarettes at 18. I still think that it's pretty ridiculous that you can go to war at age 17. You're an adult enough to go to war and die at 17, but you can't have cigarettes or alcohol until you're 21. I know these are 2 very different things, but it just always baffled me that that was a thing. Managers of stores love to have people who are regulars. They love their regulars, but there are some out there, some glorious managers that don't like it when a customer disrespects their staff. And that's what happened here. She lost and this person won. Our last story today is by SRM3449. Don't want to pay me for the job I worked? Speakerphone will get you. Years ago, I worked on a video production shoot for a company in northern New Jersey. The day went well, I did my job, and nobody said anything to me otherwise. I happened to connect with another camera operator this day, and I got his business card. I invoiced the company for the work I had done and noticed after 30 days that it was still unpaid. Sent the invoice again via email, still did not get paid. Reached out to the company over the phone, and they had the cojones to tell me they were not paying me for the day's work I had done because, quote, I did not do a very good job, quote. This was obviously news to me, as again, no one had ever said anything to me on the day of the shoot. Also, I did the work, which means I get paid. Reached out to the other camera guy whose card I had gotten, and he told me they had tried to pull the same thing with him on a letterhead from a law firm and forced the issue and got paid. I followed suit and eventually did get paid. Now fast forward a year or 2 and I get a phone call one day. It's the same jerk who was refusing to pay me. He has me on speakerphone and is asking about the logistics of an upcoming shoot and blah blah blah. I said, let me stop you for a second. This is X of X company? Him. Yeah? Me. You refused to pay me for a job I did 2 years ago and now have the audacity to assume I might work for you again? You're wrong. I don't work with unprofessionals like you. And I hung up. So satisfying. Hope everyone in the room heard that and he felt like the dirtbag that he is. Pay people who do a job for you. If you don't like the work, that's fine. But if they are there and they put in the time and they did the work, it does not have to be perfect. You can go on Google and say, this person did work for me and it was terrible. That will do more harm to them in the long run. But you still pay them. There is no one in the world who should get away with not paying people who do a job for them. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a toasty day.